Obviously, that's the delicate balance, isn't it, Neve, to provide safety and security, but by not being overpowering and taking it over and becoming a police state. I believe another picture is coming in to us of this explosion, right? You can see it there. Again, those large plumes of smoke. Look at the dozens of people running away in absolute fear, I should imagine, from this airport. Obviously, a lot of security there because of the ongoing investigation between Brussels and France. This is inside the airport. We heard that the majority of injuries happened in the departures hall, confirmed at this stage that one person has died. When we spoke to Neve about 10 minutes ago, he was saying that the police and the security forces were already getting people out of the airport. We believe that the transport services to the airport have all been stopped, including the trains and cars on the roads. But there you can see those people, I should imagine, absolutely petrified, being removed from the airport in Brussels. Not sure at this stage what has led to these explosions. The country is under high security because of the investigation linked to the Paris attacks in November, in which 35 people died. Many of those attackers had been living in Brussels, in the Molenbeek area. One of them arrested recently in an enormous police raid there. So this picture coming to us from Brussels, from the main airport there, of people being evacuated. I mean, it looks like a bit of pandemonium. Nobody obviously knows if there's anything more. There's been a real fear among security services in Europe of the amount of people who've left Brussels and have gone to Syria and returned to fight and conduct these horrendous attacks. These are live pictures, though, coming to us from Brussels. People standing. Let's have a look where, well, obviously planes outside the airport. They've all been evacuated. The security forces are locking the area off while they find out what has happened. I mean, we're not sure at this stage how many people have been injured. We know that one person has killed. We're hearing from eyewitnesses that apparently dozens of people are lying injured on the floor. Let's bring in Jackie Rowland. She is our correspondent. She's based in Paris. She covered much of the attacks in November, those horrendous attacks in which 35 people were killed. Jackie, any word from your side about what has possibly happened, what's going down?
No, but I think it's important to see in the context of the kind of warnings that we've been hearing ever since the arrest of Abdeslam, from judicial officials and from prosecutors and investigators, both in France and in Belgium, about the danger of, as they put it, other cells being activated. We have heard this from both Belgian and French prosecutors. Their understanding of how these cells work is that sometimes if one cell is closed down and, for example, the arrest of Salah Abdeslam in Brussels on Friday could be perceived in that way, then sometimes the way these networks operate is that other cells will then be automatically activated. And that is why we have heard from the authorities that this investigation is not over, that there was a fear of other cells being activated, and we have seen increased controls, for example, on the borders between France and Belgium. I myself, returning from Belgium to Paris on Saturday night, was surprised to see that police were on the station platform controlling the identity documents of everyone coming off the train from Brussels. Police are very aware of the connections, the live connections between Brussels and Paris in the organisation, planning and execution of the Paris attacks. And they're very much afraid and very much wanting to prevent the movement of possible suspects, people who could possibly be involved in other cells. And what we're learning about now at Brussels Airport does seem at this very early stage to be fulfilling those fears and predictions of French and Belgian police.
And just noting that seeing police on platforms, checking people's documents is not what we've become used to in Europe, Jackie, but obviously very worried about those fighters returning from Syria, being trained in Syria, many of them emanating from Brussels itself, and the links between the two countries. Tell us more about the investigation, what sort of concerns there are about those returning to pick up where others have left off.
There is a great concern there. One thing I have to say has been particularly interesting is the way in which we noticed on Monday that the Paris prosecutor and the Brussels prosecutor gave very little information at their news conference. I have been following really the story of attacks against civilians in France in particular for more than a year, and we've always noticed that the French prosecutor gives a lot of detailed quality information during his briefings. On Monday he said almost nothing. There has been a fear, there's been criticism that leaks from police officers to journalists have given away vital details. For example, there was a leak that a fingerprint of Salah Abdeslam had been found at an apartment when it was raided by police on Tuesday. That leak forced the police to bring their operation to capture Abdeslam forward by many hours, possibly by 12 hours. Once the information was out there, they were afraid that he would be able to act on it. But we have nevertheless been hearing a lot more, particularly in Belgian media, journalists who follow very closely developments in Brussels. And we've been learning more in the Belgian media about the family which allegedly hid Salah Abdeslam during at least part of the 4 months that he was a fugitive. A family named as the Abba Khan family in that district of Molenbeek, where Salah Abdeslam was apprehended. The Abba Khan family, according to Belgian media, includes a number of family members who actually went to fight in Syria. So this gives you an indication of the close links. People, families, young men from these districts in Paris and in Brussels, for whatever reason, attracted by the ideology of ISIL, in the case of some who actually go there to fight, in the case of others who don't go there to fight, but actually decide to bring the fight to their home countries. This is a phenomenon that police are very worried about, and it's very difficult to control. There have been criticisms of the police, people asking questions, why did it take the Belgian police 4 months to find Abdeslam? He was under their nose. He was hiding only about half a kilometre away from his family home. The response by security experts to that is, this problem, the threat is so widespread, you would almost need several police officers following each individual suspect, and there could potentially be thousands in order to hermetically seal the problem. And that clearly is not possible. Police officers are having to make judgments. Intelligence officials are having to make value judgments on different pieces of intelligence to decide which to pursue and which not to pursue. It is an inexact science.
Jackie, an update here, according to Reuters, that shots were fired before the explosions, and Arabic was shouted as well before the two explosions. We don't know what was said before that. Let me tell you what else I know. We're seeing extensive damage at the airport, ceiling tiles on the floor, and I don't know if you've seen some of the images, Jackie, but I mean the plumes of smoke coming from the airport. So certainly big explosions here. You're talking about the security concerns, and Jackie, we're now looking at live pictures of people outside the airport. Many of them have got blankets thrown around them. I'm sure many of them are in a state of shock and extreme fear. At this stage, confirmed 1 person dead, several injured on the floor in the departures lounge. This happened around 8 a.m. local time this morning. 2 large explosions, lots of people leaving the airport. The area around it is increasingly under lockdown as trains are stopped going to the airport, traffic is stopped there. Jackie, as you know from covering the Paris attacks and the fallout from that, is the psychological impact that these sort of attacks have on people, where nothing is sacrosanct. When you're sitting having a meal, you can be attacked. You can be attacked at the airport. Very powerful.
Well, this is a reality not only for people in Brussels and Paris, but also people in Istanbul and Ankara. the fact that nowhere is safe anymore. I mean, an airport is clearly an area that normally is under high security because, of course, air travel has always been more strictly surveyed than rail travel, for example. So the fact that an attack could apparently take place within an airport would, if anything, increase people's feelings of insecurity and fear, because this, of all places, is the kind of place that you expect to be safe. Even in a country like the United Kingdom, where police do not routinely carry firearms, at airports you do see police with firearms present. So if attackers can perpetrate a bombing at an airport, which is a supposedly more secure facility than, say, a cafe or a shopping mall, then that will obviously increase people's feelings of insecurity.
All right, Jackie, we're going to leave you. Jackie Rowland reporting from Paris there on her experience and what she knows about the links between France and Brussels. And let's bring in our correspondent, Niamh Barker. He's in Brussels. Niamh, I know you're making your way to the airport. We're looking at live picture coming from the airport. Lots of people milling around, people being ushered away in blankets in a state of shock and fear. What more do you know about what's happened, Niamh?
Well, more and more information is emerging. It's coming to us largely through the Belgian media and through social media as well. We gather that the two explosions that were seen, heard and felt, that one of them happened outside the airport and that the second may have happened inside the departure lounge, close to the American Airlines desk, which we believe would have been very busy at that time in the morning. According to eyewitnesses, there was very much a scene of panic. They are reporting the sight of many injured on the ground. Police at this stage are only confirming one death, although several media outlets are saying that that number is much higher. The France Info radio program has been reporting at least 12 dead. Of course, we can't independently verify that ourselves, but that is what we're hearing from a number of different sources. So a rapidly developing scene at the airport. The airport itself is undergoing a lockdown. All flights in and out have been suspended. Rail links to the airport have been closed. And what we are seeing as we approach the airport is a tremendous amount of traffic, which does suggest, of course, that the police may have created a cordon around that scene.
Describe the airport to us. I mean, how busy is it? Where is it situated in relation to the city?
The airport itself is in a suburb known as Zaventem, which is to the northeast of the Belgian capital. It's a very well-connected airport. Of course, Brussels politically is at the heart of Europe, so there are flights going internationally to the United States, to lots of different locations in Europe, Asia, and further afield. So particularly at this time in the morning when long-haul flights would be taking off, there would be an awful lot of people in the airport at that particular time. Since the Paris attacks last November, the whole of the country, as well as, of course, key installations like airports and train stations, have been on a heightened state of alert. There's been a combination of both police and armed military that have been specially drafted in to provide extra security in the wake of the Paris attacks. Of course, the country still remains on a heightened state of alert, not the highest, I might add. That had been reduced a couple of months ago by Charles Michel, the Belgian Prime Minister. But there have been some concerns after the arrest of Salah Abdeslam that more attacks might be possible. It is, of course, too early to link the two, but it has very much been on people's minds in the last couple of days. Many people have been asking questions about what it means for one key suspect to be arrested, but does it then, of course, warrant concerns and worries about other people, other cells possibly being activated in the wake of that key arrest? Questions, of course, that the security teams are going to be asking and going to be investigating over these coming crucial hours.
All right, Niamh, let's leave it there for a moment.